Has it been a quality couple of days? Had a good time? Yeah. I only came in last night and I had a quality night last night just listening. Who was here last night? Yeah. 38, I've got to remember 38, haven't I? And all those numbers adding up to 38. I've sat through lots of stuff today and it has a quality flavour all the way through. So, yeah, thanks for the invite to come and see you. Riding this wave, I had to find a wave from Queensland. I remember Chris Todd, some of you may know Chris here. I arrived in Hobart a few years ago and he said to me, we had a tsunami come through the other day. And he was right, it was 1 centimetre high, but it was measurable. It's about 10, 15 years ago. Yeah. Right, quality. Have a read of,
Sneaking behind you.
Have a read of that statement up there, and so I'm going to take you through a bit of a journey in this quality thing. So have a read of that. So it's getting you to rank from 1 to 7, 1 being high, 7 being low. What you think about the overall quality of Australian products and services that we have. Sorry?
Products are very different to services.
Yeah, but you're right in there in some way, but when we think about quality, and we'll talk about that, but the products that we produce and the services that we have. So from 1 to 7, anybody like to see where they think Australia is from 1 to 7? 1 being good, 7 being lower. What do you reckon? 5 or 6? Yeah. Anybody else? 2 to you? 2? Yep. Okay, at the moment we've got an average of 3.8. 38? 38, 3.8, yeah, okay. Any other advance on, well, we got 2 at one, then we got 5, the other?
I reckon compared with others it's probably about 1, compared with others.
You reckon?
Staying in the middle.
I can hear it.
8.
Yeah, 8? Chris reckons 8. All right, let's have a look. Let's take you back in time a little bit. Let's take you back to the 1980s and round about 1985, 1986. There was a guy called Kevin Foley, who did some work for the government and found that's what Australians ranked Australians' products and services. That was the perception people had. So it mightn't have been reality. They may not have had something from Germany, West Germany, Japan or whatever. That's a perception they had. So when these results came out at that time, I think Bob Hawke was in power at that stage, and it really threw them around a bit because they said if the perception is that Australians believe New Zealand products are better than Australian products, if that perception turns to reality, we're going to have problems. So this was going back to be the start of that very big program that we got. Remember when quality assurance started to come about? Some of you remember that ISO series of standards? Yeah? Any of you are ISO registered now? Yeah? Yeah? How long have you had that ISO certification? Yeah? Okay, so quite a while. So this became the start of that in trying to get us to see and perceive that Australia is better than that. I haven't got very much data here now, but I've got a little bit of data. Have I got enough data to make a judgment and say it's 3.8? Probably not. I'll tell you what, I think what that did was to create that whole volume of organisations saying we're better than that, we're better than that. So an interesting move, and that's where, in many cases, that quality movement within Australia started. When we come to trying to define quality, again, if you have a look through lots of the readings, there's mixed reception to that, defining quality. What is quality? What do you reckon? What's quality? How would you define it? Particularly related to maybe being an RTO, maybe being involved in education and training. What do you reckon? What is quality? Quality system in place? What does quality mean to you? Sorry? A level or standard, yeah? Yeah. So you've met this particular level, and hopefully you stay there consistently. Yeah. So we have a whole range of different definitions. If you were going to buy me a pair of socks, for example, what sort of socks would you buy me? It's my birthday tomorrow. What sort of socks? What colour? What colour you reckon?
Oh, I get you some spotty socks.
Sorry, which?
Spotty colours.
Body coloured socks. Spotty coloured ones.
Very nice, yes.
And obviously the definition of quality is I'm the customer, this is what I want. This is what I want. I want multicoloured socks, you know. Spotty socks, maybe you might like them, but would I like them? So when we start to look at the definition of quality, it's always this meeting or exceeding the requirements of the customer. What does a customer want? What does a customer want? And what can we give them that's then consistent? So we have a consistent approach, a consistent operation to getting it right for the customer. Of course, when we start to then look at this other bit down here, quality assurance, we're getting closer to what happens in our RTO. So we're now going through our systems to be able to combine the efforts of everyone in the RTO, and we'll start to see where efficient and effective comes out. So quality assurance is about getting everybody to work together. When you start to think about that, you start to think about then it's really to do with being very efficient and being very effective. What's the difference between them? If I'm very efficient, what does that mean?
You use less resources, time. Use less resources, time, money.
Yeah, less resources, very conscious of numbers. You know, I need 3 sheets of this, I need 16 of that, I need 54 minutes to do this. So often efficiency is very much based around about numbers, whereas when we start to look at effective, we're actually starting to think about the customer. I've got a colleague in Brisbane who's retired now, and he was doing lots of work with me years ago. And I'd get into this debate with him, and I'd say, Colin, what do you reckon the difference is? And he said, oh, we have a very efficient system at our place. We answer the phone within 3 rings. I said, you're right, sometimes it's only 2 rings. Sometimes within 2 rings, somebody's answered the phone. It still takes me half an hour to get through to you, though. So if we just measure things based on being efficient, it's not really effective. So there's this phone call and me sitting on the end of it, whereas he thinks that they've answered within 3 rings, it's nice and efficient. So what we're looking for here is trying to make sure that we have a quality system within our RTO that does look after those things, those resources, and make sure we are doing it in an efficient way, but making sure we don't lose the focus on the customer. There's lots of research that shows some of the most profitable companies in the world are not necessarily the most efficient, but they're the most effective. They're the most effective. They focus on the customer. So it's getting that balance right. And the way we do that is to make sure we can get it right internally if we want to get it right externally. If you're one of my customers, I've got to make sure I have systems in place, quality systems in place that consistently do things right so that time after time after time I get it right for you. We'll start to see where that comes into it. So we do have an external customer, and we have a whole range of internal customers. So we've got this external customer, your student. And then as we enroll that student, we're then getting all these things happening so that when that student then leaves, they're satisfied. So what we have here, we have those RTOs operations. That's where quality is about. That's what it's about. Combining the efforts of every single person in that organisation to get it right. And what this is designed to show you is that we're trying to get it right for this person outside. But if we can't get it right inside, how are we going to get it right outside? So it's making sure that when we focus on the customer in an efficient and effective way, we also look at our colleagues, our friends. Australians have a very different belief about quality to many other places in the world. For example, some Telstra research shows that when they said to people in the States, what do you do that you believe results in quality? People in the US said, what do you think? If you stuff it up, I'll give you a kick in the bum. Don't do it wrong again. So you get one chance. When they said to the Japanese, what do you do that you believe results in quality? What do you think the Japanese said? We measure, we measure, we measure. So you can imagine this chart here, and they've got the tolerances set up, and what they're doing, they're measuring and measuring and measuring so that this thing doesn't go out of tolerance. Quality to them is through measurement. And when they said to Australians, what do you do that you reckon results in quality? What do you reckon they said? What do you think Australian belief is? Very strong belief about quality. They think that if you and I get on well together, quality will result. It's a really interesting... Australians believe quality is a result of relationships. And we've probably all had a kick in the bum at some stage. We've probably all been involved in measurement. Yeah, we're going to measure this, but we're going to keep it within the tolerance. But Australians clearly believe that you and I work together well, quality will result. Does that have any downfall? Does that create a problem, you think, in our system if you're my mate and we're trying to get quality right and he stuffs it up, what am I going to do? He's my mate. Oh, I don't want to report him. He's my mate. It has to be strong enough. It has to be strong enough. And I think it is within our culture, our quality culture, that, mate, you've stuffed it up. But before anybody else finds out, let's see if we can get it right. I think it's that relationship. If I've got such a strong relationship with you saying, you've stuffed it up, but between us, let's see if we can get it right. When we look we're looking for this efficiency and effectiveness, and we're looking to develop this quality culture. So this culture of quality that will be independent of maybe our compliance, maybe those bits of paper, maybe if we've got a system in place that's built around this communication and we're communicating quality, compliance just becomes part of what we do. That's a really important thing. When we look at quality, I can remember going back probably about 20 years ago, and I was working with a big Australian organisation in Queensland. All around Australia as he eventually went. And there were 300 people in the organisation, and the manager said to me, Brycey, before we set this quality system up, it was to do with ISO, I want every single person in this organisation, all 300 of them, so as many people as would fit in this room, all 300 of them to know what's going on. They need to know what's going on. So I said, well, we can stop production for the day. We can stop production, we get them all together, and I can tell them this message. He said, oh, now, be good if we can keep it going. So I said, fine. Let's run 20 sessions. Let's have 15 people in each session. And within 3 days, we'll cover all 300 people. So he said, yeah, let's do it. So that's what we did. And he attended every single one of those sessions. Have any of you actually done a lot of those sessions where you repeat the message, like an induction? You know, you tell them a story, and then, you know, an hour later you tell another group the story, and after about 8 of these sessions, I couldn't remember what I'd actually told them. So I thought I'll start it differently this time. So they never seen me before, didn't know me from a bar or so. So I had this group in front of me, and I said, how many of you came to work today to stuff it up? And that was my tone, that was my voice, that was my facial expressions, you know. How many of you came to work today to stuff it up? And there was a bloke sitting over here, Tony, said, we didn't. We come to work, it happens automatically. And he was spot on, I said, well, what sort of things go wrong? He said, oh, you know, sometimes we get part-timers that haven't been trained properly. Okay, something to do with the system. You know, sometimes we're waiting for materials to be delivered. because we haven't purchased them on time. Okay, something to do with the system. Sometimes when those materials arrive, they're not always the quality we need. Okay, something to do with the system. And really what he was saying is, we don't employ saboteurs. I don't think there's somewhere on the application form that says, saboteurs, please sign below. What he was indicating quite clearly is, when we go to work, it'd be really great if everything worked well. It would be really great if everything worked well. That's what he was saying. Is it like that at work? You know, when you think about it, you think about all the changes that are going on in your RTO. Who's had new management start in the last, say, 12 months? New management. Yeah. Extended your scope or reduced your scope? Yeah. How many of you had new staff join the business? How many changed location, now delivering? So when you think about it, you think about all these things that are going on, and you think, we've got to try and control these. Did all of those hit the mark with you, didn't they? Yeah, because they do with most people. And it's all positive stuff. We've got new people, we've got new management, we've got a new scope of registration. You know, we've moved to a different location. You know, we've got new technology, we've got new customers, all positive stuff. And what you're trying to do, you're trying to keep some controls in place with that. And people don't come to work to stuff it up. So when you think about that old 80-20 rule. 80% of the problems in your organisation and in my organisation are caused by the system, not by the people. Only 20% of those problems are what we call special causes. And they're when things happen when, you know, if I start to treat the special causes, for example, probably about 15 minutes ago, you drifted off, you went somewhere else. Do you remember? You were worried about that, whether that email had arrived, or... Do you remember that? Don't you remember disappearing and your mind going outside the room? I noticed. You're just as bad. I don't know what you're giggling about. You're just as bad. You drifted off somewhere. You know, and imagine that's a key time, a key point when you're putting something together. You're marking the student's assessment or whatever, and something, you just drift away. Hey, hang on. Your system isn't going to have lots of control over that. What they will have control over, though, are the things that come out of things like the standards. So you look at these standards. I held these up at a conference recently, and some bloke said to me, "Is that all they are? Is that them there?" I said, "Well, there's a few pages at the beginning that really are just the contents and whatnot, but that's them here." He said, "I've got this impression that they're this thick. You know, at work it's all, oh, we've got to meet the requirements of these standards. I've got this impression that they're this thick." I said, "Well, mate, that's all they are." I said, "Do you want to come and work for my organisation? I'm starting an RTO up down here, by the way, and I'm looking for people. And I reckon if you're here today, you're the people that I need." Okay? So in our system that we have this really good system. And if you want to join our business, do you think that we should have records that we can manage to ensure that they're accurate and have integrity? Yeah. Nothing in here which is strange. Just that, you know, in his mind there was this massive document we were trying to jump over. It was really, you know, do you think we should have a system in place, a mechanism in place that makes sure that we can handle students' complaints and appeals? Of course we should. So all we're looking at is putting a quality system in place that's based around these standards. And based around more standards. Some of you will have lots of standards. Those of you, anybody in the room that works in disability services? Children's services, hospitality, aged care. So you can see in all of those there's generally some sets of standards that you have to meet as well. You know, what are they there for? They're there so that we can get it right. That's all it's trying to do, is just trying to get us to get it right. Okay. So motivation, intrinsic or extrinsic. So these are the standards. The auditor's coming, you know. Did you know the auditor was coming? The auditor's coming. You been motivated today? Okay. What I want you to do is I'd like you, and the auditor, I'd like you with your left hand to salute. So with this hand to salute. And with your right hand, I want you to wave to people in the audience. And there's some people up the back there that might miss you otherwise. So some people over there as well. So what we do is we put these systems in place. How long do you reckon he can go? Do you reckon? Why are you blushing now? Like me, I'm blushing as well, you know. The interesting thing, of course, is that I wonder if we do that while the auditor's there, we follow these systems, you know, saluting with your left hand and waving, you know. Next time any of you meet, that's what I want you to do. That's the quality salute. Nobody else will know. You're in the middle of Coles or Woolies and you go. Okay. It's hard to keep something up and in place that you don't believe in, isn't it? And you do it while the auditor's there, you do it for this extrinsic motivation. You know, we should be doing these things because we want to do them. So legislation helps us to do that. So legislation is designed to positively affect our attitude. You have a bus system here in Hobart. You know when you get on the bus in Hobart, are there seatbelts? No seatbelts? You have a train? Do you have a train that goes up the mountain? No. Well, you'll never have a train that goes up the mountain. But if you think about the, every time I jump on a bus, I'm looking for the seatbelt. To jump on the train, I'm looking for the seatbelt. What legislation has done is to change my behaviour. Sit down on the bus, I'm looking for the seatbelt. It's not there. Am I safe? So legislation is a very powerful thing. So what it does is to change what we think, what we feel, and what we do. That's what it's about. Any Victorians in the room? Okay. Now, if you would have remembered probably a few years ago, you drive down from Tullamarine, from the airport into the city, go underneath the bridge, it says, think safe, feel safe, act safe. Victoria has a really good reputation for really promoting that. Think safe, feel safe, act safe. That's what it's about. It's about trying to change those behaviours. So when you look at that in terms of what we do, what do we think about the standards? What do we feel about the standards and what do we do about the standards? So I'm the boss of an RTO and this is where quality starts. I'm the boss of this RTO, the one that you're going to join, the one that you might join. You know, I think these standards are really important. I think these standards are really important for our RTO. I feel that if we follow those standards, our students will excel and they'll get jobs. And what I'll do is, whatever goes wrong in that RTO, we'll put it into our continuous improvement system. We'll do it, we'll change things. So what I think is the standards are good. I feel really good when our students do well. And what I'll do is to make sure that we continually improve what we do. You see that quality cycle in legislation? And often we don't think about it like that. We think about it like that. The auditor's coming. The auditor's coming. Now, the standards are here with us. Let's think about them in a positive way. What do we feel about them? Let's feel about them in a positive way. And let's do things in a positive way. So our evidence of our behaviour is based around the controls we put in place, the responsibilities that we establish to carry out the controls, and the records that you put in place. So where we're going with this, and I'm just about to finish on this now because I know we've got some more sessions. Where we're going with this is that we've got two parts of it. We've got the people who are so important. This mate of mine here that between us we want to get the quality right. But we've also got all of this. We need evidence in place. We know we're doing it right. We know our students do well, don't we? Get jobs all over the world. Is that good enough for the standards? No, we need to be able to establish the controls, give evidence of the responsibility, and be able to demonstrate through records and through behaviours that we're doing it right. So quality is about the balance between the people and the process. That's what quality is about. So what we're going to do, we're going to finish now, and for some of you who are going to be joining me next door, we'll then start to take that into the direction of then spending a little bit more teasing out what is it about the people, what is it about the system. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks very much, John. And as John offered, he has got a session starting at 2:30, and his room is going to be in Tasman C.